Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Monty Belmonte. As Western Mass and the United States had to deal with ice this weekend in more ways than one, I quote Amanda Gorman and her new poem about the killing of Alex Jeffrey Preddy this weekend when she writes, "Know that to care intensively united is to carry both pain, dark horror for today, and a profound, daring hope for tomorrow. We here aspire to bring you things that might bring you hope from your community. And poetry and music and art are what bring us hope." So later in the show, we'll hear from Greenfield Community Television station manager about the important civic piece public access television still plays in our local civic engagement, as well as how you can channel your artist and inner filmmaker with their Lights, Camera, Greenfield festivities. But we begin with Bach.
Hi, Monty. How are you?
Good, and you?
Excellent.
Thanks for doing this. Is there a clock or something very near you?
Yes, very near me.
I love it. I don't think we need to worry about it. But we should acknowledge it because we can definitely hear it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I've got a collection of about 36 chiming clocks.
Whoa!
All through the house.
What?
Yeah. Here they come.
Oh my word!
That is so cool.
Well, we're gonna begin there.
Okay,
Christopher O'Reilly.
I love that.
Why do you have so many
Sounds
clocks?
good. You know, it was from my mother. I was visiting her back in Pittsburgh, and she had a couple of clocks. One was a train station clock, very, very old. Another was a sailor's clock. And I came back to my house in Los Angeles, and I realized the only clock that I had was the digital readout on my coffee maker. And I just thought that was terrible. And I was always, getting up at 3 a.m. to, get a plane somewhere. And I always had this head trip, like, I was in bed and think, oh, well, the alarm's about to go off, so I should just, not go back to sleep.
Uh-huh.
And of course, then I'd, finally get it together to look at my watch, and it was still, 1 a.m. So cue eBay mania and lots of chiming clocks. And so now I'm up in the middle of the night and I hear faintly, 2 o'clock. Oh, no, I can still sleep, and
well,
I
that's
go
good.
right back to bed.
There's something very Terry Riley about that.
Well, welcome to the Fabulous 413. Christopher O'Reilly and cellist Matt Haimovich have a new album, The Bach Dialogues. This release is an exciting development in their duo collaboration. They're taking this new Bach project to the stage, reworking the music in a fresh, intimate way, and using a mix of historical instruments and modern sounds to create a bridge between old and new.
Christopher O'Reilly and cellist Matt Haimovich will be performing February 1st at the Drake in Amherst. And we are joined by Christopher O'Reilly, who is not just a pianist, but also was a public radio show host. He was the host of the weekly NPR program From the Top. Thank you for joining us, Christopher O'Reilly.
Yeah, I was there for like 20 years. And we came and did a show at Amherst, I believe, many years ago. Yeah.
Well, we have a storied classical station here with WFCR, which we now have NEPM classical, 24 hours of classical music still on the air. And our good buddy John Nowacki, if he weren't busy right now, we probably would bring him into this conversation because this is so right up his alley. But it's also right up our alley. And I was listening to samples from the album, and it's called The Bach Dialogues. Talk about why you have called it The Bach Dialogues.
Well, we have done a lot of work together over the years, but Matt had this wonderful dream where he and I had also heard that the clavichord was Bach's favored keyboard instrument. It had, unlike the harpsichord, which just plucks the string with a plectrum and therefore has just one speed and one dynamic, always the same, or a piano which would strike the string with a hammer and you could strike it at a soft or loud speed. That's how the name forte piano or piano forte came about. The clavichord actually has something called a tangent. It's like a little fork that doesn't strike the string, doesn't pluck the string, it meets the string.
Huh.
What that means is that you have contact with the string and you're connecting it at the tangent at the halfway point of the length of the string, as you would, if you just put your finger on a string at the halfway point and plucked it, it would make a perfect octave, above, the actual tuning of the string. But the contact with the string is it's very slight. And so you can barely hear this instrument except under the ear. But the advantage, of course, is that like a fortepiano, there is a way of playing loud or soft, depending on how much pressure you put on. The other thing is, since you are making contact with the string at all time with the tangent, as it's called, you can actually vibrate on the string. It's more like a string instrument than a percussion instrument. And so you can, jump up and down on the key and it makes a vibrato.
Oh, wow.
Of course, the sound of the note, dies instantly, and it never really gets really loud. The only way you can really hear a clavichord is if you are standing right next to me. It's the only way you can hear it. So it was never or hardly ever used as a performance instrument. There have been, people lately who have made a resurgence of interest in the clavichord. Keith Jarrett did a great record where I think he had like 3 clavichords, and he was playing all 3 of them. And Ralph Kirkpatrick, the American harpsichordist, did recordings of the Well-Tempered Clavier on the clavichord as well as on the harpsichord. And so recording the clavichord is fine. You can stick a microphone in and, hook it up to a Marshall amp and, then you're as loud as you need to be. But as far as chamber music is concerned, it's a physical and acoustic impossibility.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we went to do at Skywalker Ranch, the ultimate technological marvel of sound production, is we had our producer, David Frost, Grammy of the Producer of the Year award winner, and all the other wizards at Skywalker Ranch. And we basically put me in almost an isolation booth, although, I wasn't in a separate room. I could still, hear on the other side of the baffles and plastic walls, I could hear Matt up on a podium, far away from me. But the only way that we actually really did hear each other in order to play was with the headphones, hooked up to the feed that was going into the studio. And so Matt, of course, was in hog heaven because, as a cellist, you're always worried about being overpowered by the keyboard. So he completely ran roughshod over me. He was playing.
That's why he's relegated you to this very quiet instrument, perhaps.
I think that's why it was Matt's revenge. But the fact is, it was a really good idea because that was the instrument on which Bach could explore dynamic contrasts or actually a shape of the line. So much Bach playing is like an onslaught of notes.
Oh, totally.
It's just everywhere. And it's really a big turnoff.
It's funny because we mentioned that the album is called the Bach Dialogues, and while I was listening to it, I was like, it's more like the Bach arguments because it sounds like people talking over each other, and they're definitely talking about the same thing, but they're talking at the same time.
So here's the thing. So we have this idea that we want to get into Bach's head, and Matt has worked a lot with Bach. He's recorded the cello suites 3 times. And after we've worked together on Bach, he's ready to record them a 4th time because we've both made enormous discoveries. I spent, a few of the last years recording the complete Well-Tempered Clavier of Bach and also made an entire method for actually there's a YouTube archive of like 40 plus hours where I talked about each prelude and each fugue.
Wow.
And I called it Everything We Need to Know About Playing the Piano We Learned for the Well-Tempered Clavier. Mm-hmm. And indeed, everything that I've worked on really affects everything else, all the music that I play, all the music that Matt plays. And we've been in this discovery process, and it's a matter of trying to get into his head. But the biggest consideration was when I began working on the Well-Tempered Clavier, I made the connection that Bach was primarily a composer of vocal music. I mean, the most expressive instrument we know. And so the thing was, it became less a question now of whether it's okay to play it on the piano or the harpsichord or clavichord or whatever. It really is a matter of getting to the lyric impulse behind the music. So first of all, there's a dialogue between, there's a tradition of leaving the music alone and letting it, just be all the same dynamic and all the same articulation, and a new perspective which sees that it's most important to get to the lyric aspect, the human aspect, the expressive aspect. Even on a harpsichord, I mean, there are ways of playing expressively, and I won't get into the weeds there, but I used a lot of that in working with the piano. I've used a lot of it, getting to know the clavichord. So it was really a matter of taking that ideal that we were dealing with of the first expressive keyboard instrument, and we were trying to make it come alive in the present era through the dialogue of technology. And so the way that we were able to isolate the two instruments and then bring them together in a perfect mix really made this acoustic impossibility a dream come true. So it really is unlike anything else that's ever really been produced.
It's not just a dialogue about the lyricism of Bach, but it is a dialogue between two very archaic instruments, because it's not just the clavichord, but it's viola da gamba.
Exactly.
Can you talk about, not everybody knows what a viola da gamba is. Can you explain what a viola da gamba is to our listeners, and perhaps how it varies from the cello piccolo, the 5-string cello piccolo that Matt Haimovich is playing?
Absolutely. Very, very well considered. The viola da gamba, you've probably seen Baroque ensembles with something that looks like a cello, but is actually held between the knees. It doesn't touch the floor. It's actually a little bit lighter, a little bit smaller than the cello. It's also played with a different kind of bow. The modern bow that we often use is something that we can really maintain a sustained sound. From the beginning of the bow to the end of the bow. The Baroque bow looked more like an actual bow, like a bow and arrow, because that sort of arc to the wooden part of the bow made it impossible to make a sustained sound. Every note has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so you often hear on the viola da gamba, you hear swelling into the note. And at the tail end of the bow, it trails off. And so if you look at notes under a slur in piano literature, that just means, all the notes under that slur need to be played smoothly. And that's it. That's really rather undifferentiated, frankly. With the Baroque style, you really have a sense at the end of the slur, there is a release, a lessening, an intimacy, a fragility, a vulnerability. So it's not about just playing to the back hall the whole time. There's really a beginning, middle, and end, thanks to the Baroque bow. And so Matt has taken basically what his prodigy days cello, slightly smaller cello, and he had it retrofitted for 5 strings. And so that became his cello, the cello piccolo, the 5-string cello piccolo, which actually Bach did write for. The 6th of the 6th suites was written specifically for that the 5th string. It's really an extraordinary matter of facility that he has now. All those very high register stuff that is impossible to play on the modern cello becomes much easier. You have to make different decisions, but you have a whole world of color that you're bringing to it. And Matt really, explores this to an extraordinary degree. And so, we've been playing together for a long time, and it's wonderful to be able to just hear, not based on, a metronomic idea of tempo, but hear the way he's going from one note to another, just, in the sound. And that's because of the malleability and the non-ultra sustained sound of the cello piccolo.
It reminds me of our local hero musician, Peter Blanchett, who has created a guitar called an arch guitar so that he himself can better play the music of Bach. Bach must have been writing such complicated things that our contemporary instruments need to be updated so that we can accommodate those. And you'll be able to hear a little bit of that with the Bach Dialogues live at the Drake on Sunday, February 1st, when Matt Haimovich accompanies our guest, Christopher O'Reilly, the celebration of this new album, the Bach Dialogues.
More coming up with multi-talented keyboard enthusiast and former NPR host Christopher O'Reilly, who'll be joining former UMass faculty member Matt Haimovich in Amherst this coming Sunday at the Drake. We'll hear how this duo formed and about how they are as much interested in Bach as they are interested in Sondheim, Radiohead, and Pussy Riot. And later in the show, Greenfield Community Television station manager Bella Levavi tells us how and why you should pick up a camera and make your own movie, and do it in a fortnight with their Lights Camera Greenfield Festival. You're listening to The Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5-College Credit Union, dedicated to creating access to financial well-being for local people, businesses, and communities. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
We're speaking with pianist, harpsichordist, clavichordist, and clock enthusiast Christopher O'Reilly, who, along with cellist Matt Haimovich, has a new album out coming out called the Bach Dialogues. They will both be at the Drake in Amherst this Sunday, February 1st. Will you be bringing a clavichord to the Drake? You mentioned how hard it is to hear that thing live, but if you plug it into a Marshall amp, just like Jay Mascis from Dinosaur Jr. does when he comes to the Drake, what will you actually be playing there?
It would be great to bring a clavichord, but I think that's only possible over at Skywalker, and only in retrospect. And you could only hear it in the control room. What we've devised has to do with a lot of the work that I've done on the well-tempered clavier with a program that I plug into my laptop and my Casio called Pianotech, Piano-T-E-Q. It's from a French company that has devised an entirely new way of sampling technology. So instead of just recording a note of a Hamburg Steinway and putting that into an application, they do something called physical modeling. And so this is a way of capturing the sound of a particular instrument. And they have, I have like literally 36 concert grands, historical grands, 4-tip pianos, harpsichords, and clavichords. Basically, you can get in there and alter the length of the string. You can alter the overtone series. Virtually anything having to do with sound production you can do in this app. You can create a larger or smaller virtual space. You can re-choose the microphones that you're using. Of course, you can the actual sound of the hammers on a string. You can dial that up. The sound of the dampers falling on the string. Anyway, I have a couple of different clavichords in my Pianotech program, and so I can play it as loud as I like. And Matt, in the meantime, has found a 5-string electric cello, and so and is using a Baroque bow on the electric cello, and so he's closer to real than I am, but not by much. So we're taking the virtual version of the Bach Dialogues on the road.
And as I mentioned, it'll be at the Drake in Amherst this Sunday, February 1st. Matt Haimovich will be there, along with Christopher O'Reilly, who joins us now.
I mean, I was going to say, it just seems very expensive to try and take a clavichord across the country to do anything.
Yeah. But it would be cool if they did.
Yes.
If it's at Skywalker Sound, perhaps they can use the Force to levitate it to wherever they need to go.
But you would literally never be able to hear it.
Yeah, fair.
I can't tell you what a pain it was to actually get a real clavichord up to Skywalker Ranch, or to even find one. I was talking to my friends, in various early music departments around the clavichord. Nobody plays the clavichord. There's no reason to. They didn't even have one in their instrument library. Nothing like that.
It makes me want to talk to we have a Merriam-Webster editor on every week, and makes me want to ask her if tangent, which is the piece of equipment that touches the strings in the clavichord, if the way we use tangent now, or that we go on this show very frequently, came after the clavichord or before. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And not just related to math.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how you and Matt Haimovich connected initially. Like, what appealed to you about his playing that you've gone on this many albums and this many musical journeys with him?
Yes. Well, very good question. It's a real history, and Matt and I have been doing the same thing in different ways in different places. So years ago, Matt did a 50-state tour playing the Bach suites, but playing them in rock clubs and jazz clubs and outdoors and what have you, just taking traditional music into untraditional spaces. And I was, meanwhile, traveling around. I was playing regular repertoire, but I became very well known for my arrangements of Radiohead and Nick Drake and Elliott Smith, etc. And so I was taking untraditional classical music into traditional classical spaces. So we were doing different things in the same way together. So Matt had a venue in Montreal, and I went and played there once. And at that point, he was looking for a manager, so I turned him on to my manager at the time. And the manager came up with this idea of our first project, Shuffle, Play, Listen, sort of an homage to the iPod. And so for that double disc recording, so this is the first thing we did together. It was make a double disc set. We did, John McLaughlin and Matt Haimovich Orchestra. We did Radiohead. We did Cocteau Twins. We did lots of different bands, and we also did some classical things. Stravinsky. There was some Piazzolla. I remember the first gig we had was in Billings, Montana, and they gave us the stage of the Alberta Bayer Theater for 4 days straight. And we had met briefly, to go over some of the arrangements that I had made. And Matt was really pitching in as well, because I don't know what I'm doing on the cello. So he was coming up with really great ideas. But we worked on the stage, you guys, 14 hours a day. And it was never a feeling of, oh God, we have so much to go. It was always a new moment of revelation and discovery. And we loved each other's playing and loved the way we worked together. And so that first concert was an extraordinary, experience. And we took that on the road, and Shuffle, Play, Listen was a very, very successful record. So since then, it's just been a matter of kind of reorienting and readdressing things. So for instance, the next thing we did was the Beethoven sonatas and variations for cello and piano. And we used an 1828 Broadwood fortepiano on loan from the Beethoven Society at San Jose State University. That one we also recorded at Skywalker Ranch, but we didn't need headphones for it because you could actually hear the instrument. But it has such a distinctive color. And it was like learning a new instrument for me, because, the keys are a little bit thinner. You have to get used to that. But it's a gorgeous thing. The most intense thing about that difference was the una corda pedal. On the left, there's the 3 pedals on the piano. And if you push down the left pedal, the whole action shifts just slightly, so that, well, in the original fortepianos, you really were switching from 2 strings per note to 1 note, una corda, one string. On a normal piano of concert grand, when you shift the una corda pedal, you're playing basically on 2 strings instead of 3. And you're not really changing the color so much. It just makes it more muffled. I for one, I just never use the una corda pedal on a modern piano, because I'm usually playing on pianos where I find myself saying, I can play this soft without monkeying around, and it's a fuller, more fulsome sound. But on the fortepiano, push the una corda pedal down, and it makes this it's this very slightly more nasal sound, is slightly more focused and slightly, trebly, a little bit more trebly. And so I just thought, well, and it just made a different kind of sound every time I pushed it down. And the Will Meredith, who was there with the Beethoven Institute with us, I said, Will, I'm thinking like composers don't usually mark una corda. They did later on. Liszt did a couple of times, but mostly nobody does that. But I said, Will, I'm feeling like every time I see a pianissimo, I should use that una corda. He said, yeah, you should definitely do it.
Yeah,
so
interesting.
It's just sounds so insanely cool. And Matt was so jealous, he was going to start playing Ponticello so he could just keep up with the coloristic mania. So that was the Beethoven project. Next one we did was, again, mixed between classical and pop. We did an album called Troika, where we did, Rachmaninoff sonatas, Shostakovich, Prokofiev, but we did Russian music. We did a Pussy Riot song.
Nice.
And we did Back in the USSR. So that was another double disc set. it's really been a matter of coming to these things and not just saying, oh, it would be nice to record this or that, the other thing, but really, at the end of the recording the Bach Dialogues, and basically what's on that record are the 3 gamba sonatas plus the C major trio sonata, which is done sometimes, gamba and harpsichord. I first heard a recording of Ton Koopman, the harpsichordist, and Jordi Savall, our favorite gamba player, a favorite period musician of all time for me. And so that's how we get those 4 pieces. And so it was a lot easier to just call it the Bach Dialogues than say, oh, the gamba sonatas plus the, so much easier this way.
Indeed. The Bach Dialogues comes out January 30th. You can hear it live at the Drake in Amherst that following Sunday, February 1st. You did mention you have albums of covering Radiohead and our Hampshire alum Elliott Smith and Nick Drake. Other contemporary artists that you're hoping to tackle in the future? Christopher O'Reilly, pianist, harpsichordist, and clock enthusiast?
I just came out with a record called Lotus Land, and it's the first all arrangements record that I've done in about a dozen years. And so that's got more Radiohead, but it's also got some of the Great American Songbook, a great song by Billy Strayhorn called Chelsea Bridge, My One and Only Love by Guy Wood, Very Good Advice, which is a song from the original Disney animated film Alice in Wonderland, Over the Rainbow, which I've always wanted to do, songs guided by voices who nobody's ever heard of and I love.
Yeah, we love them.
And just love them. Stephen Sondheim. I do Johanna from Sweeney Todd. I love it. Ricky Lee Jones.
Wow.
Prelude to Gravity from Ricky Lee Jones.
Amazing.
Tears for Fears, Mad World from the version they covered in Donnie Darko. Yeah. So yeah, that's a real mixed bag. And the title track is Lotus Land by Cyril Scott. That's how I came to that. My mentor was Gunther Schuller. He was the president of New England Conservatory when I went to school there. And we were very close and played all kinds of music together, all styles of music. And he was the one who taught me the Duke Ellington adage that we live by, which is there are only 2 kinds of music, good music and the other kind. And I think Duke was addressing sort of the uptown, downtown jazz situation that was going on in his lifetime, But I thought it was a great distillation because as performing artists, it's up to us to decide what we believe in and how we can perform it to the best of our abilities. And the audience has the responsibility to take in whatever they're hearing without prejudice, without, feeling like, oh, I'm supposed to like this or I'm not supposed to like this. And just on the evidence of their ears and their hearts, they decide what's good music and what's not good. So Gunther, called me close to the end of his life and said he had actually listened to some of my arrangements. He really liked them. So that was already, a big deal for me. But then he said, your harmonic language reminds me of somebody they referred to as the British Scriabin, and that was Cyril Scott. So I started looking at Cyril's music and found this song. The piece for piano, Lotus Land, is one of his most popular. It's been recorded a few times, but that became the centerpiece of the record. Lotus Land really has a more mellow vibe than my ultra virtuosic Radiohead records. But it's much more. Actually, it was inspired by the fact that people talked about my True Love Waits record, the first Radiohead record I did, as a great makeout record. So I love that. And so I would think
it would be an anti-makeout record called True Love Waits, that would be coming from some sort of like Christian background and saving it for marriage kind of situation. But yeah.
Oh my God. I didn't realize that until, because True Love Waits was the name of the song. That
right.
I started with.
Yeah. Right.
But then I was doing interviews and they said, oh, so True Love Waits, so is this about the abstinence movement? Yeah. I said, well, given the hours that I spent making these arrangements, I'd say I made my, contribution to the abstinence movement right there.
Christopher O'Reilly, who along with Matt Haimovich has a new album, The Bach Dialogues, that is out on January 30th and will be performing it live here in the 413 at the Drake in Amherst on Sunday, February 1st. Christopher O'Reilly, the pianist and former NPR radio host of the great show From the Top. You are a delight to talk to. The clocks in the background just make it that much more chefs. I didn't know that was going to happen. Perfect
Yeah,
timing, though.
never-
Thank you, clocks.
Never know. So great being with you guys. Thank you so much. And stay warm, all right?
We're trying.
You as well when you get here.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I've been there.
Perhaps the wintry landscape that descended upon us this weekend is the perfect setting for a film you've always dreamed of making. Greenfield Community Television is about to launch this year's incarnation of their Lights, Camera, Greenfield Festival, where they're encouraging you to go out and make that snowy celluloid. We'll talk with GCTV station manager Bella Levavi about why you should go out and make that movie and why you might need to include a fish in it. You're listening to The Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Dean's Beans Organic Coffee, a locally based, worker-owned company committed to social and environmental responsibility, roasting fair trade, organic, shade-grown coffee since 1993. DeansBeans.com.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. How long does it really take to make a movie? Greenfield Community Television brings back its annual film festival for a 6th year, challenging filmmakers to see just how fast creativity can move. Lights, Camera, Greenfield is the 2-week film sprint and festival, which kicks off on February 9th.
Building on last year's success, GCTV will host an open enrollment workshop at Greenfield Community College on January 27th and 28th, Tuesday and Wednesday. Just give people some of the tools that they may need to do this. And with us to talk about all of this is GCTV station manager Bella Levavi.
Yeah. C'est la vie, Levavi.
C'est la vie. It's Bella Levavi, the station manager of GCTV.
And one-time hitchhiker in the Belmonte car. Well, we won't. That could be a movie in and of itself for this, but perhaps we'll get to that at
Were
another
you in
time.
costume? Were you in costume?
No.
at
I
the
picked
time?
up Bella hitchhiking. There was. All right. Let's just tell the story. You were covering it for what? The Recorder.
I was working at the Recorder at the time, and Route 2 in Gill got shut down because of a fatal car accident that I was sent to cover. So I parked my car at the wagon wheel and tried to walk to get a photo of the said car accident. Did not get very far, maybe a mile down the road, but then I had to walk back, and I was exhausted, and it was very, very hot outside, and the Belmontes were trying to go on a camping trip and decided to pick me up and give me a ride back to my car.
And that, friends, is community.
Yeah.
Just like this film festival is.
Yeah, you could make a film out of what happened in that event. And
You really could.
And that could have been one of the prompts that would have been asked of us, a hitchhiking movie. But I was looking at the films from last year, Bella, and it seems like one of the prompts might have had something to do with fish.
Yes. So when you sign up for the film festival, you get 3 prompts. 2 of them are special to your movie only. And there is one universal prompt that everyone gets. Last year, that prompt was fish. So we got to see a lot of creative uses of fish. And I will not say what this year's prompt is. We'll find that out February 9th.
Well, some of the titles of last year's, and you got a decent number of submissions, which is cool. One was Fish Monster. One was Fish 2, Fishman, The Fish, Sleeping with the Fishes. And then other fish appeared in other forms throughout this, including a fish as God at the Whately Diner in what felt like a Lynchian silent movie. Where did this idea come from to try to use Greenfield Community Television to try to inspire filmmaking?
Greenfield Community Television is Greenfield's public access television station. So we are all things media and helping the public create, distribute any kind of film or radio or podcast. So we're really an access point for the community to use in any way. And as cable kind of has declined in relevance, turns out media has not declined in relevance. So Greenfield Community Television continues to be relevant in teaching people all things video. We've really just tried to figure out how to stay relevant when kind of our model is a bit archaic at this point. And so we still have lots of revenue, and that we use that to be a public point for learning, for education, and and for video.
Well, let's just unpack that for a quick second, because historically, the fundraising model for community television stations has been through cable. GCTV and Montague Community Television across the river, and Amherst Media and East Hampton,
Northampton Media,
all of them are where you're going to find what happens at your select board meetings and your city council meetings. The NEPM news department can't go to every single one of those meetings. The Greenfield Recorder can't go to every single one of those meetings because it's tough. The media landscape is tough. So what these community television stations represent is super important. How are you maintaining funding when a lot of people have cut the cord for cable and are doing what I do, which is pay way more for 15 subscription services and feel like I've been liberated from cable?
Yeah, so it's true that less people have cable, but it's still true that some people have cable. So we continue to get actually a lot of passive income. A majority of our budget still comes from 5% of your cable bills. And then we also have other streams of revenue. We receive a lot of grants for operations and for special events like Lights, Camera, Greenfield, and our other big event, which is Skate Field, which is we do a skate competition where we invite kids to come and we give them cameras and we make a community skate video in the park all together. So we get grants for our special projects. And then we get a lot of donations from the community, from businesses, from sponsorships. So we've kind of been able to figure out how to keep revenues flowing even as cable revenue does decline.
We're speaking with the station manager of Greenfield Community Television, Bella Levavi, about Lights, Camera, Greenfield, which kicks off in earnest on February 9th with the prompts and the 2-week onslaught of filmmaking. But there is a open enrollment workshop at Greenfield Community College on January 27th and 28th, Tuesday and Wednesday.
And let's talk about that educational component, because there's a number of workshops that are tied to this festival, not just the ones on January 26th and 27th. Can you talk about the many workshops and classes that GCTV is offering in conjunction with this festival?
Yeah, so the festival's been happening for 6 years. It started out with you just sign up and make a movie, but if you don't have help and you don't really know how to use editing software, or you don't have even a cell phone, it's difficult to make a movie. So in order to expand access and get everybody on the screen, because I truly believe, and us here at GCTV believe, that everyone can be a movie star, we have made a bunch of free workshops where we work with the group of people who sign up for the workshops and make a film. So this year, I just finished the workshop with Prospect Meadow Farms in Hatfield, where they've made their movie. So we're going to have different people with disabilities on the screen represented. We have 2 children's workshops. We have one at the Greenfield Recreation's Rec Room, which is their after-school program. And then we're going to have another free one at the YMCA. And then finally one geared towards older adults, but open to everyone, is at GCC.
And then all of these films that'll happen, the ones that you've been working on, the workshop films, and then the ones individuals can sign up for and get the prompts for that start on February 9th, there'll be a public premiere at the Greenfield Garden Cinema right there on Main Street down the street from GCTV, right? March 5th?
Yes. So last year it was truly one of the best days of my life. I got to see almost 20 films that I kind of really helped a lot of people make, and everyone just got to come together and just be so proud of the work they made. And we just have a little screening, and I'm going to dress up. Everyone else should dress up as well. And we'll have raffle tickets for sale. And it's just an amazing community gathering. And so that it'll be the same thing this year. So you can go, even if you don't want to make a film, you can come to the screening and see all the amazing work and the creativity here in Greenfield and the wider area.
Have there always been prompts, or are the prompts a recent development to try and create some connective thread between the films that you get?
So this film festival is based off film sprints that happen nationally. And so typically how they work is, in order to make sure that people aren't cheating and making their film early or something, you always get a specific prompt. So so you stop all the cheating that way, because it's hard to predict that you're going to be required to show a fish in your movie. So the prompts are kind of built into the film sprint, which will happen all over the country. There's so many different festivals that do this, and some are as short as 24 hours. Ours is slightly longer for 2 weeks.
And as we mentioned, the main prompt last year for this Lights, Camera, Greenfield was fish. But what are some of the sub prompts that individuals have gotten over the years that have been interesting that you may know about that have happened in years past with this festival, Bella Levavi?
So I started working here about 2 years ago, and this is my only second time being part of the festival. So I'm not sure what the prompts were in past years because I never got to participate in Lights, Camera, Greenfield. I've participated in the Ashfield Film Festival, which is another beloved Franklin County film festival.
With requirements and some prompts, yes.
Yes. So I'm not sure what they were before me. I think they were more like cute phrases, but I've gotten very literal with my prompts since I've taken over organizing the festival.
It's a good way to make sure that people are paying attention, kind of like the tan M&Ms thing.
What's that?
Oh, on writers yeah, okay.
For some reason, I thought you meant tan from Queer Eye.
Wow, that is a leap. Speaking of leaps, you mentioned that you used to work for the Greenfield Recorder. What made you move from there and print media to GCTV and visual media?
I've always been an artist, and while I was working at the Greenfield Recorder, I wanted to make a movie for the Ashfield Film Festival because I had written about it because I was the West County beat reporter. And I wanted a camera, and I didn't know where to get one. And I heard that you could get free rental equipment and training at Greenfield Community Television. And I stopped in and got a camera, made that one film, and fell in love with GCTV. The director at the time, afterwards, I would volunteer all the time. He handed me a 360 camera, and that's where I just fell in love with this place. I would strap a 360 camera to my head on a helmet and just walk around town. And I did a lot of skating with it on my head. I actually broke one falling while skating. So I just really fell in love with the organization. And when it was time for me to leave the recorder, I share the same parking lot. I knew the people working there. It was a really natural jump into this place. And since then, I've kind of made it my mission to give everybody a 360 camera in Greenfield. Sometimes I help people make radio shows. I teach a lot of people how to use video cameras, and I've really just tried to transform this place and give everybody access to video because it's a really powerful tool to tell everybody they're an artist, and I'm going to tell them how they can do that.
Coming up, more with GCTV's station manager, Bella Levavi, about some of the other Wayne's World-esque television programs and radio shows you can experience through Greenfield Community Access Media, and about why this year's incarnation of their Lights, Camera, Greenfield Local Film Festival is not a competition. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Eastside Grill, celebrating 40 years in downtown Northampton, serving steaks, seafood, and American cuisine to the Pioneer Valley and beyond. Open Wednesday through Monday, eastsidegrill.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar in Hatfield, specializing in solar installations, battery storage, and clean energy solutions tailored to the homes and businesses of Western Massachusetts. Northeast-solar.com.
We're speaking with the station manager of Greenfield Community Television, Bella Levavi, about Lights, Camera, Greenfield, which is a film festival that is kicking off in earnest on February 9th with a 2-week sprint with a big community gathering to watch all these films in the beginning of March at the Garden right down the street from GCTV. You know, we alluded to here about what GCTV represents in our civics. I mean, there's city council meetings and more, but tell us about that.
We get we have a contract with the city, so we film the city council and the school committee live from the John Zahn Center. So we work with the city a lot, and they give us all of their meetings so that we can broadcast, because part of our mission is government transparency. So we are the access point between recordings of every single subcommittee. All of those committees go on Greenfield Community Television. We have a television channel that you can tune into if you have cable, and just watch government meetings all day if you want to.
It's like watching paint dry. No, but it's good and it's important. But are there, I'm a child of the 80s and 90s, so Wayne's World factors large in my psyche, which was a community access television show spoof on Saturday Night Live. Are there people making TV shows, though, like classic Wayne's Worldy type or different other types of TV shows through GCTV?
Yes, we have a lot of people making television shows. Some new programs that we've been working on recently is we have a variety show with kids at the YMCA, and we make a show where they have different sections and they tell jokes and they teach you different exercises, and it's very Wayne's World core. It's really, really fun to film. The kids love holding the cameras. It's beyond cute. And another series we have is called Music from the Soul. It's a Black music series. So we have Ron Smith, who is the director of the music program at Northfield Mount Hermon, comes in once a month and curates kind of live music in our studio space. And they play all different genres of Black music and do Black music education.
One of my favorite claims to fame with Greenfield Community Television / WMCB LP, the radio station, 107.9, is that I helped to coordinate getting my favorite radio show of all time on Greenfield Community Television's radio outlet. It is Legs Up and Dancin' with Lady Di, where Lady Di, in drag, sings over your favorite golden oldies, and it is a delight every time. It's still a big part of my Friday evening. One day, my wife was driving through downtown Greenfield and was like, I don't know what's happening, but Lady Di is on in Greenfield. And I was like, you're welcome, America.
Wow, I did not know that was you, Monty. Yeah, we love Legs Up with Lady Di. So we have a side project from our television station, and it is a low-power community radio station where we get anyone in the community to have their own radio show. And we have just incredible stuff. People play a huge variety. Many people come in with their records or their tapes or original music and are playing really, really great stuff. I'm constantly learning about new music from our radio station.
God, I love it.
It's so great.
This is a community effort, people from the community making their films of, it seems like about a minute to about 5 minutes long tops for whatever reasons. But at the same time, this is a contest. Who won last year? Because I can't tell from the full lineup.
So last year, our winner was Ian Hamilton, who actually started the festival. So I kind of took over his job, and he made Swimmin' with the Fishes, which then also premiered or was shown at the Ashfield Film Festival. This year, I'm kind of anti-winning. I think everyone's a winner if they finish a film and get to show it in the movie theater. And everyone's a winner if they make art ever. So I took away the winning prize this year because I don't want to claim that anyone's better than anyone else. It's always a joy and such a win to make art and share it with the community.
I agree with that. Why turn it into a contest? I mean, like, I all get wrapped up in the Oscars all the time, but then even Ethan Hawke was saying 80% of people are going to leave that place feeling like crap about themselves, even though they've been given the highest honors that movies can get. So yeah. I firmly agree. It's more of an encouragement to say, just get out there and do it in 2 weeks, and isn't it fun to see it on the big screen?
Yeah, and it's an accomplishment to finish a film regardless, and to do it in 2 weeks is like such an accomplishment.
It's great.
Yes, and I kind of get wrapped up in the Ashfield Film Festival every year. Sorry, I'm talking so much about that, but it's truly just one of Franklin County's crown jewel events. If you've never been, I highly recommend it. And I always want to get an award, and I've never received a single any kind of recognition from it. I even made a film for it 2 years ago about winning the Ashfield Film Festival and did not even get recognized for that one either.
Couldn't manifest it into reality. Well, good. I'm glad that you have you're now at the helm of another film festival not far away.
That said, are there lessons that you learned from being a part of the Ashfield Film Festival that you now get to impart here at GCTV and the Greenfield Film Festival?
I think just the big lesson is that it is so special to make something and share it with an audience. And I've been just blessed to really be able to do that throughout my whole artist career in Franklin County. I've had a lot of people see my art, and I think that just giving that opportunity to other people is just beyond special. And I feel very, very lucky that it's my job to help people show their work and make things that they're proud of. That is just the best thing in the world, and I think everyone should get that.
Bella Levavi is the station manager for Greenfield Community Television. Lights, Camera, Greenfield returns again, the 6th incarnation, the 2-week film Sprint. There is a community open enrollment workshop at Greenfield Community College on January 27th and 28th, Tuesday and Wednesday. Or you can just go to gctv.org and look up the form, sign up, and then on February 9th, you will get your prompts and the 2 weeks to work on the film before they're all screened on March 5th at the Greenfield Garden Cinema. This sounds super fun. I can't wait to see some of these films. It was fun looking at last year's films as well. Congratulations on another great year of putting on this event.
Thanks, Monty and Khalees.
Yay!
Tomorrow on the show, we'll take you to Truth School. We'll hear about And Still We Rise, a leadership forum for women of color and gender-expansive BIPOC leaders. We'll speak with coach, consultant, trainer, mediator, Amihan Jennifer Matthias about the first session happening this weekend. And we'll celebrate a monumental anniversary as one of the nation's longest-running academic quiz show competitions, based right here at NEPM, as Schools Match Wits, marks 65 years on the air. We'll talk with the quiz show's director, and our director, Tony Dunn, about a new documentary about the quiz show, and maybe even see if we are as smart as the high school kids who've competed on the show over the last 65 years. I'm Monty Belmonte for Khalees Smith. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.